Have you ever thought what it would be like if nature responded to a prophet's words and fire fell from the sky, challenging an entire kingdom's beliefs? In a time when people of God trusted in false gods, one man stood against the norm. Who was he? To comprehend the essence of Elijah, we must place him within his historical context. Following the Jewish exodus from Egyptian slavery and their settlement in the Promised Land, a kingdom led by Jewish monarchs emerged. The initial rulers were Saul, David, and Solomon. But after Solomon's era, the kingdom divided into Israel, north, and Judah, south. The northern kingdom swiftly embraced idol worship, reaching new heights under King Ahab, the seventh ruler of the north. Ahab's wife, Jezebel, intensified this deviation by introducing Baal worship, steering the nation away from their covenant with Yahweh. Amidst Ahab and Jezebel's reign, God dispatched the prophet Elijah to summon the people back to their divine connection. So buckle up for an extraordinary journey as we explore the remarkable story of Elijah, the fearless individual who stood against rulers and summoned fire to prove a singular truth. Are you ready to be captivated? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Who was Elijah? Prophet Elijah, or Elias in Greek, was no ordinary figure. He was a God-seer, a miracle worker, and a firm advocate for faith in the Almighty. His name means "My God is Yahweh," and he is one of the Bible's most iconic prophets. Born in the town of Tishba into the tribe of Aaron, he was affectionately known as the Tishbite. What made his entrance into the world truly exceptional was the divine spectacle that accompanied his birth. His father Sabas bore witness to angels of God surrounding the newborn, wrapping him in flames and nourishing him with fire. This extraordinary event foreshadowed the fiery character and the divine power Elijah would later exhibit. Elijah immersed himself in divine contemplation and prayer from his early years, showcasing a profound connection with the divine. His youth was characterized by intentional retreats into the wilderness, where he sought solitude to engage in contemplative prayer. These moments of seclusion emphasized Elijah's unwavering dedication to seeking God's presence and aligning his life with divine purposes. Elijah's early encounters with the supernatural and his deliberate pursuit of communion with the divine in the tranquility of the wilderness laid the foundation for his pivotal role in biblical history. As we explore Elijah's life, we encounter not only a man of fervent zeal and miraculous deeds, but also a dedicated seeker of God's will and a vessel through which divine intervention opened in the affairs of humanity. Chapter 2, some of Elijah's most famous moments. 1. The message of true God. He resided in the northern part of Israel during a time of widespread rebellion when the people had turned away from God, instead worshiping the false deity, Baal. The era of Elijah was characterized by the rule of King Ahab and his infamous wife, Queen Jezebel, amidst a succession of wicked kings in Israel. In the ancient city of Samaria, the Omri family held great importance before Ahab ascended to the throne. Ahab's father, Omri, was an influential king in Israel. However, Omri displeased the Lord by following the sinful ways of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, provoking divine anger with the same transgressions. Omri's reign saw political and military achievements, yet a departure from true religious beliefs also marred it. Despite achieving success in politics, Omri oversaw a significant period of international relations during his reign. His policies resulted in forming alliances with neighboring nations, especially the Phoenicians. The bond was solidified through his son Ahab's marriage to Jezebel, a Phoenician princess. However, Ahab, influenced by his wife, continued the practice of idolatry, provoking the Lord even more than his predecessors. Ahab, the seventh king of Israel, ruled for 2 decades, surpassing his predecessors in committing sins. Despite his military prowess, he failed to acknowledge the God of Israel and marry Jezebel, a follower of Baal. This alliance with the Phoenicians and the introduction of Baal worship in Israel marked a crucial turning point in the nation's spiritual life. 2. Elijah and widow. Elijah sought refuge in secrecy for 7 years. During this period, he found shelter in the town of Zarephath, residing with a widow and her son in Sidon. One day, guided by the whispers of the Almighty, Elijah went on a journey that would lead him to Zarephath. Here, the extraordinary would happen in a seemingly ordinary encounter with a widow. As Elijah approached the city gates, he spotted a widow gathering sticks. Little did she know that her life would intersect with the miraculous. Prompted by a divine calling, Elijah approached the widow and asked for a cup of water and a morsel of bread. However, the widow, burdened by the challenges of her own life, explained her dire situation. She had only a handful of flour and a little oil, barely enough to make a final meal for herself and her son before succumbing to the grip of famine. Undeterred, Elijah delivered a message that would test the limits of faith. He instructed the widow to make a small cake for him, promising that the flour and oil would not dry until the famine's end. This request might have seemed audacious, but the widow, moved by an unexplained trust, followed Elijah's words. Miraculously, as promised, the flour bin and oil jar defied logic, sustaining the widow, her son, and Elijah throughout the famine. This simple yet profound encounter between Elijah and the widow serves as a testament to the miraculous power of faith and obedience. In the face of scarcity and desperation, their story reminds us that sometimes miracles unfold in the most unexpected places, carried by the winds of faith and trust. The narrative of Elijah and the widow is a timeless reminder that, even in our own challenging circumstances, a spark of faith can ignite the flame of miracles. Fire on Mount Carmel. Jezebel, deeply committed to her beliefs, introduced her religion to Samaria on a large scale. She constructed unique places for her gods near the royal palace and brought numerous religious leaders from Phoenicia, including 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Ashtaroth. Ahab faced a significant challenge as he succumbed to Jezebel's idolatrous influence, leading to God's disapproval. Ahab established altars for Baal, defying God's explicit commands to the Israelites against intermarriage and worship of foreign gods. God forewarned about the consequences of disobedience, emphasizing the importance of unwavering devotion to him and avoiding external influences. Ahab's disobedience and alliance with Jezebel set the stage for Elijah's confrontation. During a difficult period, Elijah bravely stepped forward and conveyed a strong message to Ahab, announcing a severe drought due to the prevalent worship of Baal. Following God's guidance, Elijah was taken refuge by Brook Chariot and received divine protection and sustenance. Ravens brought him food and the brook provided him with water. The brook Chariot, besides being a literal water source, carries symbolic meaning. Water symbolizes physical and spiritual sustenance, purification, and God's provision in the Bible. Elijah's time by the brook illustrated God's firm faithfulness, even in challenging circumstances. Eventually, the brook dried up due to the prolonged drought. Elijah's journey continued with a dramatic confrontation between Ahab, the prophets of Baal, and the God of Israel on Mount Carmel. A bold challenge was issued, a test to identify the true God. Despite their sincere efforts, the prophets of Baal failed to elicit a response from their God. 4. Condemning Ahab for Naboth's death. After experiencing a national drought due to disobedience to God and witnessing God's power on Mount Carmel, Ahab did not seem to learn from the experience. Subsequently, he attempted to buy a vineyard from his neighbor Naboth for use as a vegetable garden. When Naboth refused the offer, Ahab's wife Jezebel orchestrated Naboth's murder, allowing Ahab to seize the vineyard. Elijah confronted Ahab, predicting his death and the demise of his family line. Ahab repented and God postponed the destruction of his family line for a generation. 5. Calling down fire on soldiers. Upon Ahab's death, Ahaziah succeeded him, but he sought guidance from pagan gods regarding an illness. Elijah, using an intermediary, condemned Ahaziah for this action. In response, Ahaziah sent 50 soldiers to capture Elijah, who called down fire from heaven, killing them. This happened twice more with additional troops. When the third set of soldiers pleaded for mercy, Elijah consulted God and decided to go with them. He met Ahaziah on his deathbed, reiterating the earlier message through the intermediary. As a consequence of not trusting God, Ahaziah died shortly after that. Chapter 3. What happened at the end of Elijah's life? The book of 1 Kings concludes with the death of Ahab, and 2 Kings picks up with the narrative of Elijah summoning fire. Elijah's departure from earth was extraordinary. He was taken to heaven in a whirlwind while riding a chariot of fire. Elisha, his successor, witnessed this fantastic event. Following this event, Elijah received a message that God would take him away, a revelation known to other prophets as well. Elijah and Elisha journeyed through Gilgal, Bethel, Jericho, and finally to the Jordan River. Throughout their travels, Elijah urged Elisha to stay behind as he followed God's call, 1 Kings 2:2-6. But Elisha consistently responded, "As surely as the Lord lives and you live, I will not leave you." At 2 points, they encountered prophets warning Elisha that the Lord would take Elijah away that day, 2 Kings 2:3-5. Although Elisha acknowledged this, he requested that they not discuss it further. Upon reaching the Jordan, Elijah miraculously parted the water, allowing both men to cross. On the opposite bank, Elijah asked Elisha, "What can I do for you before I am taken from you?" 2 Kings 2:9. Elisha requested a double portion of Elijah's spirit, to which Elijah responded that it would be granted if Elisha witnessed his departure, 2 Kings 2:10. Subsequently, a chariot of fire, drawn by fiery horses, appeared, positioning itself between Elijah and Elisha. Elijah ascended in the chariot amid a whirlwind, prompting Elisha to exclaim, "My father! My father!" The chariots and horsemen of Israel, 2 Kings 2:12. Elisha then took Elijah's cloak, used to part the water, returned to the Jordan, and replicated the miraculous feat, 2 Kings 2:14. Chapter 4. Why didn't Elijah die? The Bible doesn't explicitly explain why Elijah was taken directly to heaven, just as it doesn't provide an apparent reason for Enoch's ascent. Scholars discussing Revelation debate whether both men will eventually experience death. Some argue that Hebrews 9:27, stating that all humans must die once, supports the idea that Elijah and Enoch are the witnesses mentioned in Revelation 11:3-12. According to this view, they appear during the end times, are killed, and then return to heaven. It's important to note that Enoch is praised for his strong faith in Hebrews 11:5. While Elijah may have doubted God's protection after Mount Carmel, it doesn't necessarily mean he lacked great faith. He continued to serve God faithfully and passed on his knowledge to Elisha. Elijah's life is a testimony to staying devoted to God amidst widespread disbelief and idolatry. His moments of fear and despair underscore the vulnerability of human faith and the necessity of God's grace. Reflecting on Mount Horeb, Elijah's encounter with God underscores the significance of recognizing God in moments of silence, where he speaks softly to our hearts. Chapter 5. What should we learn from Elijah's life? Elijah's life encourages us to stay strong in our faith, trusting God's power to intervene in our lives. His journey inspires us to stand up for God, proclaiming his truth even when faced with challenges and idolatry. Elijah's story is a powerful tale of faith, courage, and divine intervention. It motivates us to channel Elijah's bravery and faith in our own difficulties. In a world entire of conflicting voices and ideologies, we can seek the quiet guidance of God. By trusting him, staying committed to his truth, and boldly sharing his message, we can navigate through tough times and leave a lasting impact, just as Elijah did in his era. Elijah's story transcends its historical context, offering timeless lessons for believers today. His journey encompasses the highs of victory and the lows of despair, reminding us of the complexity of the human experience. Through it all, Elijah's faith in the one true God and his bold proclamation of that faith inspire us to live with courage and conviction in a world that often challenges our beliefs. As we navigate the complexities of our own lives, Elijah's story encourages us to stand boldly for the truth, trust in God's provision in moments of weakness, and recognize his presence in the whispers of our hearts. Just as Elijah faced the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, we too may encounter situations that require us to declare our allegiance to the living God. May the story of Elijah be a source of inspiration and encouragement as we journey through our own spiritual quests, relying on the same God who sustained and empowered this faithful prophet of old. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to show your support. Please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more insightful updates. Your engagement helps us grow and bring you more quality content. Bible Short Stories, signing off.